May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Well, happy 4th of July weekend. Usually, this is a high point of the summer with parades and pool parties and sunburn and cold beer and burgers and strawberries and blueberries on ice cream. And to top it all off, fireworks after the sun goes down with crowds of people watching them. July feels like the true heart of the summer season. 31 lazy, hazy, crazy days of relaxation and fun, knowing we still have August for trips and projects and finally getting around to getting ready for things to start up in the fall. But this year, this summer is so different. On this 4th of July weekend, although the days may be a little lazy, they follow weeks of anxiety and confusion. Though you and I may indeed be trying to relax, there's a lot of scary stuff going on out there. And though gatherings of friends and family may still be happening, they are prescribed by social distancing and face masks. Far cry from the boisterous backyard barbecues of the good old days, right? It's pretty disorienting, isn't it? As we hear Jesus' words from the Gospel of Matthew this morning, though the setting may be different, it seems to me that the people that he is talking about are also confused and out of sorts and disoriented. They are like children sitting in a marketplace, he says, complaining because the others aren't doing what they want them to. Life is not the way it's supposed to be. They are not getting what they want. They don't like John because he's too weird, too ascetic. And Jesus, well, he has a reputation for having too good a time at a party. Nothing feels right. They don't know what's going on, and it seems they can't make sense of what is right in front of them. Like I said, the situations are very different, but the dynamic is strangely similar. Which makes me wonder if there is some way in which this passage from Matthew 11 that moves from disorientation and frustration to some of Jesus' most memorable words of comfort and hope might offer you and I some guidance as to how to deal with this difficult time. Maybe help us reorient a bit so that we can at least imagine a place where we feel a little bit steadier. Old Testament scholar Walter Brueggemann has written extensively about the movement from places of disorientation to reorientation in the scriptures and in the life of faith. Now, many of you remember Walter. He was here in March of 2017 as our Stern lecturer, and he's really quite wonderful. Well, in an article that he wrote way back in 1980, Walter talks about the work of Paul Ricoeur, which informs much of his own. Now, Ricoeur was this totally brilliant 20th century French philosopher who connected hermeneutics, which is the study of interpretation, with phenomenology, which is the study of consciousness. And I do not dare try to explain that. I just want to give you a sense of who this guy is. Now, according to Walter, Ricoeur understood the dynamics of life as a movement that is dialectic but not regular or patterned, of movement from orientation through disorientation and onto reorientation. We start oriented in a place where we feel at home and where we'd like to stay. That's natural. It's the way we are. Inevitably, however, individuals and communities will encounter dangerous and difficult times, times of dislocation and disorientation. And when that happens, the normal human response is to want to go back to the way things were. I think that's kind of like what happened after Memorial Day weekend. At the same time, though, as humans, we also have this capacity to embrace a new world being given to us. Rector says that reorientation comes through a representation of reality which is genuinely new and has the mark of gift. It is not completely discontinuous from what was before, but the accent is on the new. It is a surprise. It comes as miracle, wrought from outside the present situation. A miracle like maybe these things that Jesus is talking about in the text, that the Father has hidden from the wise and intelligent, these things that are so simple that even infants can understand them. And maybe all that the wise and intelligent need to do to get on board with these things that are so surprising is to just be as open as those infants, to be just as teachable, because to understand them may well require a suspension of disbelief. Okay, now, I'm hoping you're still with me. All I have here is a camera, so I'm just going to trust that you are. So then, could it be that you and I come to Jesus when we finally set down the burden of our resistance to the miraculous? When we get out from under the weight of our compulsion to problem solve and our absolute conviction that we can figure things out. We come to Jesus when we become open and willing to be surprised. Right, just a little bit more from Walter. The new situation, which would be in this passage where we have taken on the easy yoke of learning from Jesus and are finding rest from our souls that he offers us, that new situation is not an achievement, nor is it an automatic and inevitable passage. It is a newness that comes to us. And once you and I recognize it and embrace it, we're able to let go of our yearning for what we are leaving behind. We can come to Jesus and settle in there, reoriented in our new at home. So now for the $64 million question. What does such newness mean? What does taking on Jesus' yoke and finding rest of our souls look like in this present moment, in this time of profound disorientation? I don't know for sure. And I don't think any of us does. But I do think we all have an idea of how we can recognize it. It is wherever we see the reconciling, life and love affirming transformational work that is the harbinger of the reign of God. And Jesus is pretty clear what that looks like. In Matthew's Gospel, he preaches it in the Sermon on the Mount, beginning with the Beatitudes. In the miraculous and surprising reality that comes to us as gift, those who mourn are comforted. The meek inherit the earth. The merciful are shown mercy. The pure in heart see God. The peacemakers are called children of God. Those who hunger and thirst for righteousness are filled, and those who suffer for righteousness' sake are revered. How's that for reorientation? And if Jesus is to be believed, not only is the work of God's reign alive among us possible even in this time of great disorientation, it is within our capacity. Every one of us is called to it. Every one of us is strong enough to be part of it because his yoke is easy and his burden is light. It feels counterintuitive. I know it does. But Jesus' promise is that as you and I begin to set down the weight of how things have always been, how we imagine they have to be, how we have always been, I believe we will find ourselves liberated to receive what is already on its way to us, what may well be already here among us. We just haven't been ready for it. Okay, it's a lot to take in on a holiday weekend, right? Indeed it is. But perhaps these warm and lazy days of July, in the heart of a summer season that feels like no other, are precisely the right time to begin to imagine that different kind of rest that will be all of ours when we are able to let go of the weight of what is passing away, so that this surprising and miraculous and new reorientation can come and find us now, can come and fully arrive.